convince people as to what the whole thing is all about. I'm sure through this particular event, we'll be able to bring about another change. I don't know if we have the opportunity of sharing one of our projects related to the same, which we have presented to the secretary as well as the chief town planner of Uttarakhand.
Pankaj sir, your voice is cracking.
Hello.
I suppose it is not audible.
I think kind of better now.
Ananya ma'am, I suppose now we have a 33 participants.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, 3:15 was the time that was given to all the schools. So we'll wait for another 2-3 minutes and then we'll begin with the session.
Yeah. Fine.
Yeah. They're still joining in. Some have sent message. They're just joining in. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible?
Ananya ma'am, we will be starting by 3:25.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine.
Teaching the next generation about the wonders of sustainable aqua is a ripple that creates waves of change.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I, Snehi Agrawal,
And I, Aryan Bansal,
on behalf of entire Little Scholars Fraternity, welcome you all to this introductory workshop on sustainable aqua, tailored especially for the dedicated educators representing various schools.
as teachers, you hold a unique power to inspire change and influence the perspectives of next generation. The world we live in faces numerous challenges and one of the most pressing is the preservation of our aquatic ecosystems.
Ocean, rivers, and aquatic life are integral to our planet's health, and educating our students about sustainable aqua is crucial to ensure a harmonious coexistence.
Sustainable water has a critical role to play in today's fast-paced life, and meeting this challenge relies on the collaboration and innovation of all.
Throughout this workshop, we'll explore innovative methods, engaging activities, and resources that will empower you to instill a sense of responsibility and appreciation for our aquatic resources.
I encourage you to actively participate, ask questions, and share your insights during our sessions. Let's engage in a meaningful discussions and insight during our session. Collaborative learning that will empower you to be ambassadors of change within your schools and communities. So, at this point, I would like to introduce our panel of spokesperson for the day. The versatile Dr. Chabi Mathur, the exuberant Dr. Darab Jalnagarwala, and exuberant Mr. Ravindra Sinha.
Dr. Chavi is a PhD from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Over the last 10 years, Ms. Chavi has worked with leading institutes like the National Institute of Health and Marine Biology Lab, US. She has led several research and education-related projects and published in peer-reviewed journals.
Mr. Darab Jalnagarwala studied at Missouri and obtained a BSc in Environmental Studies in USA. He returned to India and spent 17 years working with NGOs on issues of environmental degradation and livelihoods with village communities in Uttarakhand.
Ravindra Sir, the founder and trustee of Bhujal Abhiyan Trust, a Pune-based NGO working on sustainable groundwater management. Bhujal Abhiyan provides guidance to the community and authorities on protection and preservation of groundwater sources and recommends scientific groundwater recharge interventions. So, not taking much time here, handing over the session to our esteemed panelists. All yours, sir and ma'am.
Thank you, Snehi and Arjun. I think, did I get your names correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, that was a very kind introduction. And we mentioned, it's a wonderful platform for everyone who's involved here, including all of us. So we would like to just start the session with a short discussion on sustainability and sustainable aqua. And it's really, I have my cup of tea here, and I hope all the teachers after returning from their school also have their teas with them. And let's treat this more as a session where we talk. And I would encourage all of you to, as much as possible, interact, write in the chat, or just unmute yourself and speak whenever I prompt. Ananya and Manish, I would request some help for you when I do this session. Ananya, if you could help me a little bit with the chat whenever we need to look at it. Is that okay? Or any of the SETU members.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes. And yeah, so would you be able to just look at chat once in a while whenever we need to? Because
Yeah, sure.
I may not be able to go to my...
Yeah, sure. The IT team is there. We'll definitely follow up. Sure.
Okay. And we'll have a few polls also coming up. I think Manish
Yes,
should
ma'am.
put them
Everything.
up.
Polls are ready. Whenever
Okay.
you need, we can just...
So I will share my screen, and I will also be sharing my sound. So I just want to make sure that the sound sharing is proper. Let me check. Okay. So in case you cannot hear the sound, this is for a video that I will be using. So in case you're not able to hear the sound, please let me know. Okay. So like I said, we will chat a little bit about sustainability and sustainable aqua here. So right away, I would like a few of your teachers to either just unmute yourself and contribute as to what you think sustainability is or what does it mean. And if you would rather write, maybe you could write a few words that you associate with the term sustainability. We'll take this up for a couple of minutes, so let's hear it.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Hina this side from Vision Valley School.
Hi, Hina. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me here. If I say in simple words, sustainability means we are using a present resources, but at the same time, we should use it in a way that we can provide the resources to our coming generation. We should not use all the resources in a way like the future is ending over here. Nobody's gonna use them in future. We should minimize the needs as far as these resources are concerned, and then we should keep the needs of future generation also in mind. And this way we should use the resources. This is what in simplicity, if I can describe about sustainability.
Yeah, thank you, Hina. So I heard future generations, resources, needs, limiting our needs. So yeah, great. Anyone else? Maybe one or two people?
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. I'm from Summer Study Hall Girls School, Kashipur.
Hi, Ravindra. Yes.
Sustainable development or sustainability means the development of present without compromising the development of the future, so that the resources can be utilized more optimally, so that the generation should not also suffer and the present generation should also develop.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think that's reiterating, and it's interesting to see that this concept is taking in with the educators. So if anyone has a different point or there's something different coming up in the chat, Ananya, could you just check? Let me check. So I'll try. Not harming. Okay, so I think that is sort of an idea that we can all start with. However, before moving into what sustainability is, I want to ask this question as a poll that Manish will help me pull up, where the question I'm asking you is that if you had to, how far back in the history would you have to go if you had to start understanding sustainability? And those are your options. And Manish, can we have the poll up? Yeah, so you have, I think, about a minute to answer the question. So it's whatever intuitively comes to mind. Yeah, so we are getting some answers. Great. We have, I think, around 30 or 40 participants. So the poll has ended, and I will share the results. And Manish, can you take a Hi, so can somebody share the result of the polls of this poll? Can I have, can anyone see can everybody see the results of the poll? Are they visible?
Yes, ma'am, they were visible.
Okay, so they're visible, and can you just tell me which ones seem to be the higher numbers from what you're seeing?
The 31% maximum is like 1400 years, early 1400.
Okay, so early 1400s and 50 years back, right? Those are the two that I can see here.
The maxima is 1 year. Yes.
Right. Okay. So we have 13 people who answered. Next time, I hope more of you will answer. But we have two sections. One is 1400s and the other is 50 years back. So can I ask anybody who said 1400 to say why they think it is 1400s, and those who said 50 years back, why they said 50 years back?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I opted for 1400 years back, and even earlier than that. Reason being, like our forefathers had this concept of sustainability in mind, and there are many practices and the customs which we follow in our daily life, which traces back its history to the sustainability.
Okay, so you're talking about the traditional methods of sustainability.
Yes, of course. In our everyday practice, we do follow. We may give the other options like we are doing it this for this purpose, but the real reason was sustainability.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for contributing that, and we'll talk about that. And anybody who said 50 years back, could you just tell why do you say 50 years back? Anybody? Okay, never mind. So we'll go on, and I agree with the man who spoke just now. Okay, somebody has written 50 years back because many people and countries decided to focus on sustainability. So this is also important that what we have a record of the 50 years ago when people actively started looking at sustainability. So it's important to keep both these things in mind, and I will just move on with my presentation. And I just want to focus on this quote, which was made by Hans von Carlowitz in 1713. When he wrote this document called Silvicultura Economica, and this described the unsustainable ways mostly in Europe, in which the trees were being felled and the timber was being used. And this was the first document, and if we consider the documented Western documented history as well, this was the first time that someone was very succinctly talking about sustainability, where one of the things he wrote was, we must aim for a continuous, resilient and sustainable use of forests. And in the history of more Western history of sustainability, it is considered as a watershed moment in the history of sustainability. And after, like it was mentioned, that before this, there are many traditional methods that have been used in India, even for water management, which have considered sustainability, for which sustainability has been at its core. But the time that we have actually started talking about it and it has started coming up as a global issue, this is sort of somewhere that one starts. But actually not here, even before that, it is almost from the time of Enlightenment, which is 1400s, 1500s, where one starts to understanding how sustainability has become the global revolution that it is now. And you would hear about this gentleman, and then so many ecological economists and people, environmentalists like Rachel Carson. So one of her books, Silver Spring, was something that triggered the environmental movement in the 1970s, I think. So the next poll that I would like you all to contribute to is which aspects do you think the concept of sustainability include? So can we have the poll up? Thank you. Yeah. So you have another minute. Please, this time I would like more of you to join in. Sort of environmental, economic, social, political, all, or leaving out some of them. I might have even left out some points here, but yeah. Yeah, I'm glad more and more people are answering. That's great. So the poll is ended. I will share the results. I hope you're all able to see. So we have the majority that says all of these aspects are important: environmental, economic, social, political. But we do have a certain set of people who think it is more environmental or it is more economic. All aspects are important except social. All aspects are important except political. And while we go through this session or the next session or through the SETU exercise on its own, I would encourage you all to come back and keep reviewing your own ideas about what all should sustainability include, and sort of answer it for your own self. So this is just how the poll we see it right now. So I will continue, and I'll play this video, which is a very succinct description of sustainability. It says a few things that we have already heard teachers mention. And this is an idea which has held from the 1980s to the early 21st century. So I'll play this video. In case you're not able to hear the audio, please let me know. Yeah.
What is sustainability?
Is the audio, is it audible?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, great.
One of the more common definitions of sustainability used worldwide is from the UN Brundtland Commission. They say sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So put simply, sustainability is about our kids and our grandkids. How do we live today so that they can thrive and future generations can also have a good life? Our planet has many resources that we depend on for food, for housing, and many of those resources can replenish. You can cut down a tree and grow new trees. You can catch fish and there will be more fish. But that only works if you do it at a rate that these systems can replenish. We call that the replacement rate. You could think of it as a bathtub, and you're draining the bathtub and filling the bathtub at the same rate. And if you do that, then the level of the water should be able to stay stable. We call that equilibrium. It's not that you're not using any resources, you are, but you're doing it at a rate that the systems are able to stay somewhat steady. Right now, and over the past few decades, what we're seeing is that we are consuming resources much faster than the replacement rate. And the result of that, draining the bathtub faster than filling it, is that those levels are going down. We're seeing fisheries disappearing and other ocean life. We're seeing forests disappearing. Of course, everyone is familiar with the impacts of climate change and, other impacts of this level of consumption, plastics in the ocean, all of these problems. So ultimately, sustainability is about understanding how all of this is connected, understanding that when you make a decision to buy a smartphone, you are impacting someone's life on the other side of the planet who's involved in mining the materials to put in that smartphone. So sustainability is about systems thinking. One of the other big frameworks that we use to talk about sustainability is the 3 E's. In business, we call that the triple bottom line. Some people call it the 3 legs of the stool. And that's environment, economy, and equity. And it's not just about understanding that we need to manage all of those. It's understanding how they're connected. So if you only look at short-term economic profit, then you're not going to end up with a thriving economy in the long term. If you're only looking at conserving the environment without thinking about economics and understanding, how people are making their livelihood, you also may not end up with a thriving society. And if you aren't looking at equity, you're going to end up with a few people that have most of the resources and many people who are hungry and not living a good life. And that's not really a successful human society either. So sustainability is really about addressing all of those and understanding the connections between them.
Okay. So here is my question to everyone, and please unmute yourself and talk. So this was a model which is talked about even today, and it has been there from 1980s to early 21st century. But is there a problem in this model? Especially if there are math teachers on this. This is a regular Venn diagram. What may be a problem or more than one problems with this model? Take a guess, like how, not a guess, but like an educated guess, looking at the model.
First problem, ma'am, I think is with this equity. I think so most of the developed countries, they have already used the resources, and the developing countries are being blamed for using more and more resources or creating too many problems for our environment and economies. I think the equity may be the problem, because equity will
equity. So I would just interrupt you there. And so equity is a problem. Environment is a problem. Economies, they're all problems, and they're also aspects which we have to take care of. My question here is very specific. What is the problem with this model? What is the problem with this representation of sustainability in this manner? So it is, while I completely agree with you that equity there's a disparity between developed countries and developing countries, and those conversations are internationally going on. That's really very correct. But if we, what do we think is the issue here? Or if you want to answer the same thing and in the way that you are talking about, what do you think developed countries did which became unsustainable, and that is sort of, you can use this model to sort of reflect on that? Can you do that, Mr. Ravindra?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. I mean, right now, I'm just sort of, if you can do it right now, that'll be great, or even later, that's sort of fine. Yeah.
I think so. Participation of people is the major problem here, because economically and environmental, all these problems, this equity, though I was considering it another problem. Equity participation by the people is means it is to their minimum. Only the economies are talking about, but the participation of people is not up to the mark.
Okay, so that's an interesting thought, that as well, that there is more talk about the economy as compared to participating in a solution or sustainability. So what I will do is I will let's take an example, and this time I need more people to participate. And let's have this as a poll. So the question I have is, we are still trying to answer the question on the right, what may be a problem with this model. But the question I'm asking you in this poll is, if I do not need to worry about being sustainable, can I produce an infinite number of mobile phones? Can we have the poll up, please? This time we have only 20 seconds, so I want everyone to very instinctively answer these questions. This question. Okay, so the poll is ended, and what we are seeing is that the majority of people are saying that if we do not have to worry about being sustainable, we still cannot produce an infinite number of phones. That is the majority of the answer. So can I ask someone to unmute themselves, and whoever has answered it as no, to say why they think that is the case? Why can we not produce an infinite number of phones?
Once
Yes,
we
ma'am, because resources are limited.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you for saying that exactly. And what I will do is I will. So that was Hema, I think. Thank you, Hema. I would ask you all to keep that in mind, that the resources are limited, and answer one more poll, where I'm asking you, how much water do you think is required to manufacture one mobile phone? We have 5 more seconds. Right. So we have a majority, but saying that it's thousands of liters. But we do have some people. We have answers across the board, right? So we are not entirely sure whether producing a mobile phone, does it require water? How much water it may require? So I'll quickly move to the answer of this. So making one mobile phone requires nearly 12,000 liters of water, which is almost equivalent to 1 or 1.5 tankers of water that you have. And it's a completely different discussion for another day. About virtual. This is called as virtual water. The water that we don't see, it goes into the things that we use, and it's largely the gray water that goes into making this mobile phone. And like Hema ma'am here said, that the reason being that even if I do not have to be sustainable, the resources that I have to work with are limited, right? So I will just answer this question because it's already been answered. We do not have unlimited amount of water on our planet. And have you all seen this image? It's a very popular image of the world and water. Yeah. Okay. So basically, all the water from on the surface of the earth, if you put it as a spherical ball, it appears here. And this includes ocean water, fresh water, glacial water, everything. The small dot here represents fresh water, and a very, very small, tiny dot, which I don't know if you can even see, or if you really, close your eyes and like make them very small and try and see them. There's a tiny dot here, which is the fresh water that is available for us to use. And this is the water that we are trying to use for all our purposes: drinking, domestic purposes, manufacturing, everywhere, right? So the thing is that this circle here is a limiting factor. And that is what a model, so those are the problems that come up in this model. Is this model shows that economy and society or equity can exist outside of the environment, which does not happen. And also the third thing is that these are all shown as equal, that they can all be equal in size, which is also a problematic thing with this model. So another model that was suggested was something of a nested circle, where you have your environment as your outside, your boundary circle, and within that you have a social sustainability, and it is your society that produces work, that produces or that is responsible for the economy that is there. And of course, whether it's exploitative or it's whether the economy today exploits or it's friendly to the social aspects or to the environment, that is of course a different discussion on how has it happened over time. But so this was the other version of representing sustainability using the same elements. Now this has the same principle has been expanded, where people have looked at several planetary boundaries, and then there is a aspect of, how much are we using, have we used up everything, or what zone are we in a critical zone, or are we in a safe zone? And those kind of conversations are happening and they're evolving. So this is a model for the planetary boundaries. And this is a new model where it's called as the donut model, where there is an ecological ceiling beyond which, if we reach, then we are in the red zone, and we are in that zone for things like climate change, biodiversity, land conversion, nitrogen, phosphorus loading. And if we are within this, so these are the resources that we are using, or the aspects that we have to consider even. And if we are within this, that we are falling short in terms of the social foundation that we need to have as a society. So here you will see that for fresh water, it is in the green area also. I think this is a little bit dated. And then here, if you come to water, it shows that there is some amount of shortfall. So there are certain aspects. So although on a global scale, it is fresh water is probably in a green or a yellow zone, but there are areas, and like Mr. Ravindra also pointed out, there is a disparity between developed and developing countries as well. In fact, even within developed countries, within societies in developed countries, there are disparities where people are not able to access water, fresh water for uses that they should be able to, basic domestic uses. So this is something important to consider when one is talking about sustainability, and that is local versus global, right? And so there are questions which are of global concern. However, the way the questions are posed will often vary in their local context. And this will especially apply to all of you, because many of you are from different topological areas. So your local, we are not going to just consider water issues at a global, from a global sense, but we will be looking at our own surroundings, at our own localities, looking at what is happening now, what has been the traditional methods. So when you engage in SETU, we would like you to and have this distinction between what is local and what is global. The other thing that we would like you to look at is think of sustainability from an integrated perspective. So there is all this water, and we know this water is all actually connected through a water cycle. But my question to you, and I hope some of you are going to join in answering, is this image of water cycle enough for us to understand sustainable aqua? Somebody?
No, ma'am. This image is not sufficient enough when we are talking about sustainable aqua.
Okay, and why do you say that?
Because this is like the phenomena which is natural, but human activities have already interrupted this water cycle. We have already with our effort, we may say with our deeds, we have already disturbed this.
Right. So that's very true. However, even in the sense of in the natural sense also, this picture is not representative. And I will just show you another picture, which so these are all images from students from 6th to 8th standard who were participating in the water classrooms project that we were doing. And while initially they were all thinking of water cycle in this way, what you see here is that it is not just a random body of water that the student makes here, but here the students start to differentiate between rivers, springs, and even groundwater. And I think for Kashipur and for Terai area, this groundwater is going to be very essential, and you don't really see it very often. You don't see groundwater even playing a role in water cycle. Another aspect, like Hina just mentioned, is the water activity. So every time we have a big dam, and this is what the student demonstrated here, that yes, we have all these natural water bodies, but every time we have a dam or we redirect water into our into our storage spaces, we are disrupting the water cycle, right? So your dams are actually active spaces of where evaporation is happening. So and the water that is trapped in a storage space is not as amenable. While these may not affect your climate as a whole, because climate itself is a global aspect, but it will affect weather within the regions. So weather versus climate is, of course, another discussion to be had. But it's important to understand that when you have these water bodies being altered, this we are changing this water cycle. So anybody wants to take a quick chance at saying what is it that the student is trying to add to the water cycle here? What is it that you see? So the reason I have these images is because, especially for the 6th to 8th standard, it will be about visualizing what some of the aspects that you will be working with in SETU. You will be illustrating. You will be telling us through your images. So I would like the teachers here also to start, participating in or thinking about something visually. Seeing them and how do we, so just anybody wants to contribute as to what is it that the student is trying to add to the water cycle?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, in this picture, in this chart or this diagram, the student is telling us that how water from a river is reached to our basins and sinks.
That's right, Yash. And another thing that this student is trying to say is that the wastewater also becomes a part of the water cycle. It goes back into the same stocks of water that we have. And it is also our wastewater that goes back into the water cycle and actually into the biosphere, right? So, yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for that. Yeah. And this is the last picture. Anybody wants to say what's happening here? It's some kind of we've already discussed, but yeah, something else.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
I mean, this picture, the student is trying to say that the water is as very precious resource, and we are wasting it like in enjoying, and the same dirty water is getting back to the water bodies.
Yes. So
and got wasted.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So yes, it is definitely saying, and it adds the same social aspect. It adds the groundwater into the picture. It adds the role of the trees, that the evapotranspiration that happens. So it adds all of those things into the picture and adds it to our water cycle. So I think the main things that I wanted to say through this interaction was that we will, when we look at sustainability and we think about what is it now and what is it going to be later, we're not just looking at our practices which need to be resilient in terms of the environment, but they also have to be just in terms of our social standings. We all need to, like the video also said, we have to think of sustainability from an integrated perspective. And systems thinking, we can talk about the scientific aspects of it, but essentially system thinking wants you to think about if there is a pool of water, where all is water coming from, where all is water going, what are the flows, what are the stocks, basically. And the understanding of this is going to be multidisciplinary. There is not going to be just one discipline, one expert who's going to solve this problem. And so this has to be a collaborative effort. We have to learn how to collaborate with our peers, with the experts, with anybody around us. We have to identify what is it that we do not know, that we are not good at, and we go and talk to someone who is good at that, and we try and work together. That is very, very important. And to look at both, in a global and local perspective, and that those are the lenses that we want. We would appreciate if the groups that are participating approach sustainable aqua with. So that's all. From here, I will, I will stop sharing, I think. Ananya, shall I stop sharing, or are there any questions or?
Kavi, if I could just add something, to the last slide you just showed, just for all the teachers to also think about this. Just thinking about systems, I think the other really important aspect of systems thinking is to think about the connections. So in between all the parts of, for example, the water cycle, where you saw a series of drawings made by children, and they emphasized certain parts of the water cycle, and they actually added in parts which they thought were maybe missing in the traditional diagrams of the water cycle. So just feel it's really important for us to think about the connections between the parts when we consider sustainable aqua. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a very important point. The flows between one stock to the other, the connections that join them. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ravi, do you want to say something, add something at this point?
Yeah. So I think you've covered it very well. I'm very impressed with these drawings. Actually, I would love to have a print and put it across my office, because we have a lot of posters actually here related to water. So these make for very interesting observations. Very nice. Thanks.
Thank you, Ravi. I will stop by sometime. Ananya, how would you like to proceed? Yeah, I don't think if I'm audible. So maybe Dara, shall we start with the next presentation, where we are actually talking about the SETU, the exercises in SETU?
Sure. Yeah.
We can talk about the 6 to 8, and then Ravi
will
take over and talk about 9 to 12.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so now we'll actually talk a bit about the exercises that we will be conducting with the 6 to 8 standard students and the 9 to 12 standard students separately. And I'll share my screen again. And Dara, would you like to start? I'll manage the PPT.
Sure.
Okay. So whenever you want me to go to the next slide, you can just say next slide.
Yeah, okay. So we wanted to just talk to you all about how we see sustainable aqua, the SETU-2023 Sustainable Aqua initiative proceeding, and for classes 6 to 8, like Chabi just said, and Mr. Ravindra will talk specifically about classes 9 to 12. So if you could go ahead, Chavi. So the way we see this with classes 6 to 8 is really a process of reimagining, because sometimes what happens is that when we grow up with a certain way of doing things, looking at things, we kind of fall into that without really thinking about it. So, for example, how we use water. We just kind of fall into a way of using water because that's the way it's done around us. And so we want to actively disrupt that thought process. So, and I use that word deliberately, is because we want to kind of try and break those patterns, those habits, those things that we all fall into, and kind of reimagine the waters around us. And that's how we see the move towards sustainable aqua. Next. And there's a particular process that that we imagine for the children to follow to do this. And I'll talk a little bit more in detail about that process later. But for now, you can see the slide in front of you. So it's about looking at what you have and kind of finding out more, digging deeper, trying to verify things, not taking things at face value, not accepting things blindly, looking further, trying to find out more, getting what we call, when you go to a doctor, for example, getting a second opinion. And of course, after you get that second opinion and you learn some things and maybe some questions come up, then you want to articulate, you want to talk about it, you want to present your ideas, you want to, as Chavi emphasized, visualize things, visualize solutions, and you want to present those. You want to present those ideas, share them more widely, and of course, you want to, have a process where you can get feedback and you can maybe go through some revisions so that you have a rational basis to the ideas you come up with. Next, please. And so we look at these three major questions, and that is the whole sort of the big picture of how we see the class 6 to 8 children responding to sustainable aqua, and you teachers as guides to focus on. So where is the water? And when we say where is the water, it doesn't necessarily mean geographically where is it, in what location, but in what form is it also? Is it groundwater? Is it a lake? Is it a stream? Is it a river? What is it? Is it a well? Is it a bore well? And then, of course, what is it about that water? What do you observe? What issues bother you or disturb you or make you feel like something needs to be done about this. And finally, what kinds of things can be done about it? You know, what is possible to do? And Chavi, I'd like you to go ahead with the next slide.
I think you can do the first two, and then I can.
Okay, sure. All right, next, please. Okay, so I just wanted to provide a couple of examples from some of the background experiences that I've had. And the first one is about Tarun Bharat Sangh. Sorry, that it should be Tarun Bharat Sangh. I think I've spelled that wrong. But Tarun Bharat Sangh is an organization that's been working in Rajasthan under the inspirational guidance of Dr. Rajendra Singh, who is known as the Waterman of India. And I purposely put this quote in here to kind of focus the whole aspect of water scarcity on a particularly vulnerable, most affected segment of society, which is women and girls. So, and I think we're all probably aware of this. So when you visit a village, and I'm sure it's no different in the Tarai, a large part of the work of making sure there's enough water for all the things that you need in your home falls to the women and girls. And where there are water scarcity challenges, it's the women and girls who have to, take up the slack on that. And also, where there is water scarcity, there is also migration for economic opportunities. And so, because women and girls spend a disproportionate amount of time and physical labor on fetching water in places where there's scarcity, it limits their, it affects their health, and it also limits a lot of other things, including girls being able to go forward and get an education, and also for them to become part of the country's workforce. And we all know that there's a huge shortfall of women in the workforce, and that doesn't really make sense, because after all, roughly 50% of our country is female, right? So why should there be hardly any women in the workforce when we all know that they're perfectly capable of working as hard as men can? And we can see it on construction sites in any city in India. And that's where water conservation then becomes very, very important. And the next example is actually an inspiration taken from Tarun Bharat Sangh and applied to steep mountain slopes in a place called Ufrainkhal, which is in a corner of Pauri district in Dhondial Patti. It's overlooking a valley in which you can see the town of Masi below you. Very water scarce area. But there has been some amazing work done there. And literally, I mean, a ravine which was marked on a map as Sukhi Rauli has become a perennial stream that flows 12 months of the year. People are being able to use that water to grow paddy downstream, and that is really a miracle. And also because of the recharge of the aquifer, the forest, which was very dry with hardly any undergrowth, as you can see in this photo on the right, has become very lush and green. And so we can see that it is possible to transform water, to reimagine water. If these people hadn't reimagined water, they wouldn't have been able to do what they've done. Go ahead, Chavi.
Thanks, Dhawan.
Yeah.
So I see Arnav has raised his hand. Arnav, we'll keep the questions to the end. We will finish the exercise for 6 to 8 and 9 to 12, and then we'll have a good 15-20 minutes, I think, for questions. So we'll just take up questions then. Right. So I'll just continue with a few other kind of interventions that when the groups are reimagining, they can consider. Right. So another example is a technological intervention. And you will see you don't have to entirely always build the full model, but we'll talk about how much of this you will need to do. But these are just examples of where interventions have been applied. So these are there are micro hydro and pico hydro plants which can use streams in villages, canals and streams in villages to and they can these turbines use the turbines within these they are rotated by the canal water flowing from the canals and streams which are irrigating the agricultural land very often, and they can be used as generating lighting and also making income generating activities in villages and in remote research stations. So that's a technological aspect. Another is a scientific intervention. Do you want to suggest, if you see something, do you want to suggest a scientific intervention? Do you think it should be analyzed differently? Here, we would not do the water quality analysis for 6 to 8 standard because that is actually going to go for 9 to 12 standards. So, but if there are any other scientific interventions that you can think of, you are welcome to explore those. There are grassroots action activities that can be done where, for example, the group here goes every week and brings people every week to the river and cleans up the river, helps in cleaning the river. This is a group that does actually scientific measurements at this well in the rural area. So you can plan on doing certain grassroots activities. There are philanthropic interventions. So in several of the arid regions like in Gujarat or in Rajasthan, often on the roads there is no water and people travel long distances to get to work, to come back. And here what happens, some people who have more resources than the others, they install what are sometimes called as pyaus or panpuis on the roads, and they make sure that these are filled with water, and this water is available to any passerby. This is a philanthropic kind of an intervention. And these are also there are also examples in Mumbai from the British times when the fountains were installed. So if you see fountains somewhere, those are often a philanthropic intervention for providing water. Then one could think of a cultural intervention. If there is a river, if there's a stream that you think no one cares about, how do you get your locality to care about it? You bring them to see that. How do you make people see? You can. So these are examples where people have brought, where these groups have brought people next to the rivers and engaged them in drawing activities or telling a story of a river or of a stream or some water body through a play. So this is an example of a set of students doing it as a performance, but there are also street plays that one could think of. So you could think of a cultural intervention for the kind of problem that you're addressing. You could think of educational intervention. Is there something about this water body that people don't know? Is it that they have not seen? You could actually bring a microscope and see, or use a folderscope to see organisms or invertebrates that are there in the riparian zone. And you could find out ways to educate people in your school, in your locality. So you could have an educational intervention. There are, of course, forms of economic and commercial interventions, but if they are exploitative or sometimes they're illegal, then we do not want you to bring those up. But if there are interventions which are legal and not exploitative, you think, then we are welcome to hear that from you. So we have divided the the whole exercise into 3 tasks. In that the classes from 6 to 8 will be doing. And task number 1 is what we are planning right now. So all the teachers who are there for class 6 to 8, they can bring this to their students, and they can sort of think about it. So the task 1 really is where we want you to observe and identify. Observe the waters around you, like Dara mentioned in the beginning, and identify the issues that you see, that you think need a transformation, and tell us why you need that transformation, or you think there should be a transformation. The task 2 would be, what kind of interventions do you think are possible? And then you would be designing your interventions for the specific needs that you have identified in task 1 for the either a water body. It could even be a tap in your school, for example. So it could be a water element, basically. And task 3 would be to present the problem and the intervention in a visual or a interactive manner. So I would, Darab, do you want to describe?
Yeah,
this?
sure. So earlier I mentioned that we had a number of points which I spoke to you about, and I mentioned that we want to use a particular process for the children to work on. Sorry, there was some background sounds coming from somewhere. Sounds like some music. Okay, it's gone now. Yeah. So as I was saying earlier, we spoke about a particular process that we'd like the children to follow as they work on their sustainable aqua initiative. And we want them to follow what we call a design cycle. And you can see that it's got 4 parts to it. So the first part is inquiring and analyzing, and Chabi just mentioned that a little while ago. And the second part is developing ideas. And these are the 2 parts of the cycle that we want to focus on. With the time that we have available, I think we both feel that it would be really difficult to go all the way through the cycle, particularly evaluating the success of a solution. We just don't have the time to try out a solution and evaluate its success. But we definitely have time to do some inquiring, some analyzing, and developing some ideas. So you can see that there's a logo for SETU 2023 right above the blue box that says explain and justify the need. Okay, and then there's a blue arrow pointing down towards identify and prioritize the research. So in that blue area for inquiring and analyzing, you can see that on the right side, it kind of sort of ends up with developing a design brief. And before we can do that, you need to, it says explain and justify the need. We just want to flip those 2 around. So we want to identify and prioritize first, right? And that's where the observing the water and trying to figure out what the issues are, what needs transformation, and then to try and explain and justify the need. Okay. And then, of course, it comes to developing ideas. So the yellow area on the right, you can see, talks about developing a design idea and then developing a design specification. And that's basically just taking something that's a broad idea that you have and trying to narrow it down and make it more specific. And you may have also several options that you have thought of. Well, maybe this could work, maybe this could work. maybe there's a third option that could also help. And then you narrow it down to one and you present your chosen design. And then you present it visually. And of course, I mean, we would very much like it if, part of the presentation obviously is some kind of a plan of how to go about implementing this solution. And hopefully in the process of that, you would demonstrate some technical skills, but that part is optional. Developing a planning drawing, diagrams, and presenting it is really the crux of the whole. That's the expectation of sustainable aqua, and that's really what we are expecting from each of the school groups, and for you teachers to basically guide them through this part of the cycle so that they get there. And a very important part, and I don't want to go too much into the green part and the red part, but the idea is also that we reflect on the process that we've gone through and try and kind of understand what we've learned from it, and that of course will come at the end. So maybe that's something that you can also emphasize to your students, that as important as actually designing, researching the water around you and trying to come up with some intervention to transform that water based on the needs that you see, is also reflecting on the process and trying to put down what you've learned from the process. So that's also a very important part of the process. Not necessarily in here, in that written in those words in the design cycle, but we definitely see this as a part of the design cycle. Okay, thank you so much. I'll let Chabi take over from here.
So I think what I will just trying to get hold of my I think I will add it right here because we will share this presentation with everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Chabi.
And another thing that I want to add, that at any time we say presentation, we expect students to present their ideas and whatever they're presenting in 2 minutes. We know that there's a lot to say. We all have a lot to say, but we want to hear from you in 2 minutes. Can you prepare your pitch in 2 minutes? That is something that you have to, it cannot be a one-pager that you will read out to us, okay? So that's something important. And this is also there, will be there in the presentation. So here's the task 1, what we wanted to do, and we'll give you the timeline, but what we wanted to do first and foremost is identify waters around you. What is it? A stream? Is it a natural water body? Is it a tap? Is it a tank? Is it a well? Is it a storm drain? What water is it that you want to work with? Yeah. Which aspects of that need transformation and why? Why do you think this transformation is important? And how we want you to tell, how we want you to present this to us is by submitting a drawing or an illustration. And these are a few aspects of that. It would be better if you use a drawing sheet. If not, you can at least use an A4 size sheet. You can use any media, any material, any style. It's not as much the aesthetics of it as it is the communication of it. So if you do not have the best artists in your group, that's okay. As long as you can communicate what you're trying to say. You can even use comics. Comics are one of the most democratic form of, as far as I understand, they're very democratic, and you can even try and use explain something by comics. Do not copy designs directly from the internet. Try and be original. You can be inspired. You can take some forms from the internet, but tell your story. Yeah, answer those questions in an original manner, right? If it's an illustration, usually illustrations include labels, but I would encourage you to try not to label anything, right? As much as possible, do not add labels. Don't say this is a river, this is a stream. If possible, if you absolutely have to do it, go ahead, but avoid as much as possible. And if you decide to use colors, please observe the color of the water that you're working with. Is it always blue? So let your colors represent the reality as closely as possible. Let your students observe a bit more closely, even observe the colors that they're seeing. And this will be draft one. This will not be a final submission. So we will come back and talk about this, and you will be allowed to edit this drawing before your final submission. So come back to us at the date that we decide with something, and then you will have time to edit it if you need to. You may write 100 words about what you're drawing. This is optional, but recommended if you feel it is something that will help you. But it is completely optional. If you don't have it, that's okay. But your drawing is mandatory. The drawing has to come. Right? And these are the timelines that we're looking at. Today we have had this teacher orientation, and we have assigned task 1 on 21st September, and we will confirm on these times, on these dates again. So on 21st September, we would have student orientation, where we would again talk about this task 1. By 23rd September, you will submit and present task 1, and it will be reviewed, and we will go back and forth on it, and we'll assign you task 2. By 27th September, we'll review the progress of task 2, assign task 3. By 30th is when you have to get everything up. So this timeline, I'll be discussing again with Ananya. If you have any issues with this timeline, you are welcome to speak with Ananya about this, or the SETU team about this. Yeah. So I think that's all from our end. I will stop sharing, and Ravi, I think you can discuss the task for 9 to 12 standard.
Yeah, thanks, Chavi. I'll just share my screen. One sec. Yeah, is the PPT visible?
Yes,
Yeah.
the current slide and the next slide, both of them.
Okay, both are okay. What I'll have to shift the. Are both the slides visible, or there's only one?
Both of them. You could also use the icon. I mean, if you want to change, you could use the icon at the bottom, the slideshow icon at the bottom.
Okay. Again, both.
Yeah, they're both visible.
Okay. I don't think so I can get this. Yeah, now?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. So, friends, what we are planning with students is activity around a survey of the community, and we call our student friends Jal Mitra. So you are our friends trying to conserve and our natural water resources. So we are working towards empowering urban communities towards water sustainability. And if you see the logo of Bhujal Abhiyan, it is basically earth and drops of rainwater which fill her stomach, and that's where groundwater resides. And we work on scientific recharge projects, we work on conservation of groundwater natural sources and sustainability of water. So I'll move ahead. So Chavi actually showed us in our presentation the water cycle diagram, and this is a very famous one from the US Geological Survey. And I just pulled across so that when I share the presentation, students can go through this and get a better insight as to how the water cycle actually functions and what are the natural ecological services which are provided in the entire process. Okay, like evaporation and evapotranspiration. These are very essential factors related to the cycle, apart from infiltration and percolation into groundwater. So you can actually see below groundwater storage, and you can see happy drops of water moving through the aquifers. Aquifer is nothing but a strata of rock which stores and transmits groundwater. So some facts which need to be known by all of us, which I'm surprised that a lot of us are not aware that we are the largest user of groundwater in the world, and we are more than US and China combined. So the level of abstraction of groundwater which our country has is huge. It's just out of context to put it. Nearly 50 to 70% of water demand in even urban areas is met by groundwater. And we are all predicting situation of ground zero, where we will have no water, no groundwater in many of our cities in the next few years. So we are anticipating that Niti Aayog has already predicted 21 cities will run out of groundwater by 2030. In fact, today I was reading a report regarding Bengaluru, and the quantification of borewells in the city of Bengaluru was a mismatch between the different government authorities. But what they agreed upon was, yes, there's been a large-scale abstraction happening in Bengaluru, and there's a lot of concern regarding the groundwater. Again, we have the fact that nearly half our population will extreme water stress by end of 2030. And there was also another report where it was predicted that India may have to start importing water. So these are very alarming facts and projections, actually, both combined. Coming to what we can look at is urban communities. Basically, we lack knowledge sources as to how to take decisions around using of water and groundwater. This is the phenomena which exists across the country. This is a very nice graphical representation of what has happened. You see, there's a lot of buildings which have come up, and the soil areas which are depicted in brown, those have reduced tremendously. So we have cities which are like 50%, 70%, 80% covered with some kind of artificial surface. It may be pavement blocks. And this has prevented rainwater from infiltrating into these soils and further to percolate into the groundwater, into the aquifers. So we have basically prevented the natural recharge cycle, which used to ensure that our groundwater is recharged annually through the rainfall. And that has led to a significant reduction in the groundwater levels. Apart from that, we are abstracting groundwater like crazy because of the borewell technology. Again, coming back to the article today, the Karnataka Energy Department, that is a department which gives meters for electricity meters for your use. They have given a figure that in the state of Karnataka, there are 37 lakh borewells. 37 lakh borewells in state of Karnataka. it was estimated by our various NGOs that we have more than 4 crore abstraction structures like borewells and wells in India. It may be much higher actually, because if Karnataka has a valid data that nearly 40 lakhs is in one state, then I think so the figure once we start doing a proper survey will be mind-boggling. So anyway, so we have this abstraction of groundwater happening through borewells, and this has impacted the water table to a great extent. Now, what are we doing as an NGO, as Bhujal Abhiyan? We are working on something called Jal Mitra, which is automated IoT-based application, which will integrate survey findings from the field and provide us real-time access into what is happening related to the groundwater levels in different areas. And accordingly, users can get data and scientific literature around what kind of rainwater harvesting or what potential is there for rainwater harvesting in their area based on the rainfall area, based on the catchment size, based on the coefficients. So there are multiple factors which determine how much water can be harvested. So that can be provided to users. And this is basically a kind of a framework which we are working on. So I brought this into perspective because the tasks which we'll be assigning to students from 9th to 12th will be something around this, but not based on an automated tool. This is what we are heading towards. So inputs will be highly appreciated, but it will have like a user registration, which will again be based on a GIS platform. So we'll know the GPS location of the user. We'll know what kind of measurement is happening in terms of water, the water supply, which is coming from the municipal body or from private tankers. All those will be recorded through this tool, and then there will be also dissemination of information regarding water conservation, rainwater harvesting structures, and there will be some advisory services also provided through this particular portal. And so this is in progress. Now, what we intend our friends from 9 to 12th grade to do is to work on a project which involves a sort of survey. Okay, I'll show you I'll just share the survey. Just a minute. Yeah, just give me a. So the survey can either be online survey, which typically is easier method to conduct a survey. Yeah, is this visible? It's a Google form.
Yes, yes, it is.
Basically, it's a Google form which can be shared sample size or the respondents which we are looking to survey. It can be a block, it can be a ward area where you feel that there's a lot of water stress. It can be your school. Okay, it can be done jointly with your school authority. So that is something which we need to figure out based on the comfort of the students. So this basically provides details of the location, the GPS location is entered here. Okay, then how many people are residing, what is the average daily water? Okay, if you're getting direct water from the municipal body, what is it being used for? Then whether the area has a borewell or a dugwell, whether there is a spring, because we have seen even in a city like Pune, there are some residential buildings and commercial buildings which have springs in their basements. Basically, seepages which are happening because springs are discharging groundwater there. So obviously in the Terai region, and we know that a lot of springs are there, natural springs are there. So we have put that as well as a groundwater source. And then some stats regarding when the well was dug, what is the duration of abstraction of groundwater, whether it's being pumped daily, whether it's in which season it is being used more, what is the water being used for, and a basic level of quality in terms of what is the feel of the water, whether it is sweet, it is hard water, it is turbid. Okay, and whether the rainwater is stored in a storage tank or it is used for recharge of the well or the borewell, and whether the recharge is successful, whether there has been some observation that by rainwater harvesting the yield has increased. So these are some of the questions. Then we also talk about water quality testing. Here we have just talked about whether it is being tested, the water is being tested, and for how many, what is the duration, or when, till what is the time it is being tested for, and whether any water saving measures are used, whether aerators, that flow regulators are used in the taps, whether water meters are installed in the complex, whether water meters are installed in the pumps which are used to abstract groundwater, whether there is a grey water or a sewage treatment plant. So these are basically these survey questions. I'll just also show you the kind of a report which is professionally done by a NABL laboratory. One second. Yeah, is this visible?
So I don't think you're sharing your screen yet.
Okay, I think the screen is sharing is gone. Yeah, is this report visible?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a sample of how water quality is tested. Now, we know that this is not going to be easy for students to get it tested and how many samples to test. So we will take a call on that. But I'm showing you this because this is the 17 parameter test which typically is used. And these are the parameters. So I'm just bringing it to your knowledge that what kind of water tests are, what are the parameters which are required for water quality testing. And you can see they are specifically to the chemical composition related to the minerals and different metals which are found in the water. And there's a test of alkalinity. The pH level also is measured. Conductivity is basically the total dissolved solids, or it's basically electrical conductivity, which increases when the water has more TDS. You have that plus, and you also have E. coli, which determines whether the sample is biologically contaminated. So we will figure out whether what kind of quality measures can be done, because pH can be done very easily through a pH meter, which is a 300-400 rupee device, which is able to measure the pH levels. Conductivity, we will go for the basic TDS. So the TDS meter again is just about 200 rupees, which gives you TDS. Typically, the TDS range will be around 200, 500. For groundwater, it is slightly more. And then you have E. coli, which can be measured through a H2S vial, which is a 20 rupee bottle, which has a element in it where you fill the water sample and you keep it for 24 hours. If it turns black, that means that the water is contaminated with biological contamination. So we can figure out to do these 2 or 3 tests for some of. One second, I'll just share my screen again. Yeah, so is this visible?
I think you still have to share the screen.
Okay, screen is not. Yeah. Is this visible now?
Yes.
Yeah. So objectives are to basically understand the water demand and whether rainwater harvesting is being undertaken, what kind of water conservation strategies or implementation initiatives have been taken, and what is the water quality assessment kind of a framework, whether they're doing it regularly, at what intervals, and what parameters are being checked. And part 2 of the project will be basically collating the survey responses, preparing a very short 2-slide report on the survey, 1 slide on the recommendations. So that is what you think that the users need to undertake in terms of ensuring conservation and water conservation and improving the water quality, and also draft a water budget template. So input and output you can understand. So water is being demanded, water supply is happening. How do you actually bring it about to equilibrium to ensure that water is conserved, water is recharged? So I leave it up to the students to devise a water budgeting template which can serve like a tool for users. So this is in short what we are looking at. So part 1 is a survey based on some objectives. I shared with you the survey form, and we expect that this can be done by mid of September. And the part 2 of it is after we do the mid review, we can prepare the project report, which will basically be 4 slides containing these observations, recommendations, and draft of a water budget template. So that is all from my side. I'm open to questions and your suggestions.
So if anyone has any questions, we can talk about them right now. And we'll also share slides and resources. So if there's anything, you can also speak with the SETU team. That's also a possibility. And if I'm correct, mostly everybody's exams are getting over by 20th September. So the bulk of the work may happen after that. But I think there is still 1 month and students can, think about things and do some of the preliminary work tasks that we are setting here, and have something by the 21st or sometime that we meet, or mid-September even. So yeah, we can talk about the timelines with the SETU team again.
Chavi, I think Arnav had his hand raised at some point. So I don't know if he still has a question, whether it got answered along the way, maybe by what Ravindra presented, if he still has the question. Arnav, do you still have your question? Maybe maybe Arnav is not with us anymore. So I don't see the hand raised now.
So anyone else has any questions?
Ravindra has a question on the chat.
So So Ravindra, the students from 6th to 8th will be working on drawings and if possible models. They may choose a PPT, but we don't recommend it. However, 9th to 12th standard students will be making a presentation of the 4 slides that Ravindra Sinha mentioned just now.
Abdul has a question.
Yeah. So, Abdul, the activity for 6th to 8th is about reimagining waters around you, where one has to identify a water element. It could be a natural water source, it could be a tap, a storm drain, and then identify an issue. And then there are tasks with respect to that. And their presentations can take a variety of forms. There is a very little limitation on the kind of presentations that they will make. They can be models, they can be plays, performances, artwork. You have to imagine. The point is to imagine. A walk by the river, they can plan something, some educational materials. There's lots of options. We will share the slides that we have presented, which to SETU team, and SETU team will send it out to everybody else. Yeah, that will have all the tasks and what is required, and also the timelines. Yes, they can make models as well. Yes, the 6th to 8th can make models, and the 9th to 12th would largely be analysis, survey analysis, and PowerPoint presentation. But I think Ravi, you can take the next question. 9 to 12th is only about the survey and data analysis, or can it incorporate models?
I think we'll restrict it to survey, data analysis, and presentation, because that itself will be quite loaded actually. It will take a lot of time. So I don't want to add any additional components to it. Probably we can think of something as a separate activity later, but as part of this SETU activity, we'll keep it to the survey and data analysis, so that the students first understand what is the actual truth, the reality of water as a resource in the community.
Yeah. So Nandini, I think you got the answer. I'm also typing it here.
Chavi, could I just clarify one thing? I think for Abdul, your question was what was the activity for classes 6 to 8? So I just wanted to clarify. The first task that we have assigned right now is a drawing or an illustration. Okay, the final task is to basically to present your ideas, and that's where Chavi was saying that you could use a variety of ways of presenting that final idea. Okay, but that's at the end. That is due on the 30th. The final presentation online, of course. But what we are asking for right now is a drawing or an illustration, and it's based on the first part of reimagining the water around you, and we'll be sharing the details of what exactly that looks like. It's around 3 questions, and the drawing or illustration has to basically cover those 3 questions.
So putting it in the chat, like you said. Yeah, thanks.
Hello, ma'am. Ananya this side. I would like to put across that Piyush sir has joined us.
Hi, Piyush.
Welcome, sir.
Hi, everybody. Oh,
it's great to have you with us, sir.
I was just hoping to quietly get through this whole presentation, but you've caught me.
Yes. How can we miss you, sir? Sir, are we audible?
Yeah, Piyush, if you are saying something, we can't hear you.
I think sir is facing some network issue. Sir's got disconnected. He'll join us very soon.
Just to give a context, Piyush has worked with SETU, I think a couple of years ago, and he introduced me, and then, yeah, that's how the whole thing.
Yeah, in 2020, we had conducted the workshops for SETU, and Piyush sir took up this Sar Par Pair, this very famous workshop. It was about burnings, and children really had a very nice time working with sir. So that is very innovative and interesting on the part of children. And otherwise, also, sir has been connected with SETU since last many years. And as we know that this year also, we're all here, all together, teaming up. So it's all because of Piyush sir. So that's a great effort.
So Ananya, I don't see any hands up. I don't think any questions are coming.
Yes.
So what
Yeah.
we can do is we can compile all the presentations and everything and send them to you. You can send them forward. Is there anything from your end that you want to discuss right now, or would you like to close?
I think, ma'am, the session has gone very well. Everybody is very clear about the concept. Everything it's been very clear, detailed out perfectly. So hopefully this will help the teachers from other schools also to, at least frame out the structure of how they're going to go about things. And later we will definitely have a workshop for the children. The schedule for the workshops along with the timings and the dates will be shared to all the schools well in advance. We'll be doing that. But till then, please, it's a request that you keep on deciding, just finalize few things according to the layout that has been given today. So please finalize. And if there are any questions, you're all connected to Team Setu and we are here to help. So in case anything is needed from our end, we're always there. Piyush has joined us. He's back. Sir, can we please hear from you? We were just talking about birds in my backyard and Sar Par Pair. So we can never miss that lovely workshop.
Thank you, everybody. And I was hoping to just sit through this presentation quietly and not get noticed, but I guess the name Ananya ma'am got my name. I had a pretty bad connection, so I was sort of getting disconnected time and again. But I'm really looking forward to this workshop, and I'm really grateful to Chavi, Darab, and Ravindra for your interest and time. And as always, the Team Setu is really remarkable in terms of the energy and efforts that you all put in to make this event really very eventful for not just the students and participating schools, but also for the resource persons. And I'm really happy to reconnect with all of you post that session we did on birds. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. It's always been real great working under your guidance, and hopefully this year also we will do some great work. This is for the schools, the people who have joined. If there is any question, please do share with us in terms of the details of today's session. We'll be sharing it to you on the group that is already there. Anything else that we have, you can please ask. Ma'am, sir, I think most of the questions have been sorted out. So can we move towards the concluding now?
Yes, please. It's all, floor is all yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. Over to Team Setu.
Thank you everyone for being here today. It was indeed an enlightening session. As the session comes to its end, I would extend a sincere gratitude to our dedicated panelists for being our torchbearers. Thank you, Chavi ma'am, Darab sir, and Ravindra sir.
Also, a heartfelt thanks to our teachers for joining this session and for your enthusiasm in creating a more sustainable world. Together, we can create a brighter future for our planet, one classroom at a time. Hope you enjoyed the workshop. And also, I would like to thank Piyush sir for his words. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So.